Hello, brave hearts. Today, as we read together, I want you to gently think about something. Have you ever had a day where everything felt just right, like something good was finally happening? And then, somehow, it all changed? That's what we're going to see in today's chapters. So, let's take a moment before we begin to settle our hearts. If you'd like, place a hand on your heart and take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Remember, you matter. Your imagination matters. Your voice matters. Before we step back into the story, here is a gentle story note. This is a shortened version of a much longer story that was written many years ago. Some parts are softened and shortened, so it's easier to listen to, but nothing important has been taken away. This is still Anne's story, just told in a way we can experience it together. Now, find a cozy spot, take a gentle breath, and let's begin. Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. Chapter 14. When a small mistake feels really big. Anne had not always known what it felt like to have a friend come to her. So when Diana said she would visit Green Gables, Anne carried that feeling of excitement with her all day. The last time they were together, everything had gone well. They had talked easily. It hadn't felt awkward. So this time, Anne wasn't nervous. But she still cared deeply about how it would go, and she believed it could go well. Someone was coming to see her, to spend time with her. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And that was what made it feel important. She moved through the day with more care than usual, noticing things she might have rushed past before. She straightened out small things that really didn't need straightening. She checked the table more than once. "I want it to feel nice when she comes in," she said to Marilla, "like she's welcome right away." Marilla glanced around the kitchen, then back at Anne. "It will be fine," she said in her practical voice. "You want her to feel welcome, and that tells me you care, and that matters more than how anything looks." Anne paused at that. She nodded, not because everything was perfect, but because what Marilla said felt true. She still made a few adjustments, not because anything was wrong, but just because it mattered to her. When Diana finally arrived, Anne went quickly to the door. "Hi, Diana," she said, her face lighting up. "Hi," Diana said back. For a second, they just stood there, both a little unsure where to begin. Then Anne stepped aside. "Come in," she said. "I'll show you around." Diana walked in, looking around as she stepped inside. Anne watched her closely, not in a nervous way, but in a quiet, hopeful one. She wanted to see how Diana saw it. "This is the kitchen," Anne said, then smiled a little. "I spend a lot of time in here." "It's nice," Diana said. Anne nodded and then added, "I made something for us." Diana looked back at her. "You did?" Anne smiled. "I thought we could have a little snack while we talk." They moved toward the table together. Anne reached for the pitcher and glasses, her movements careful now, not rushed, but focused. She poured the drink, watching closely as it filled. She set one in front of Diana and one for her, along with a slice of cake that was baked just for Diana's visit. "This is raspberry cordial," she said, proud of herself. Diana took a sip. "It tastes different," she said. Anne paused for a second. She looked at the glass, then back at Diana. "Maybe it's just not very sweet," she said. Diana took another sip, and then another. At first, it didn't seem like anything was wrong. But after a few minutes, Diana started to act differently. She laughed suddenly at nothing, really, then tried to stop, covering her mouth, but the laughter kept slipping out anyway. She blinked a few times, like she was trying to focus. Then she leaned forward, then back again, her movements not quite steady. "I feel strange," Diana said, her words not quite as clear. "What do you mean?" Anne asked. "I don't know," Diana said. "Just strange." Anne looked at the picture again. Something didn't feel right. Diana tried to stand, but she wobbled and caught herself on the table. Her chair slipped scraping across the loud floor. She laughed again, very loudly, and it didn't sound like her. I feel funny, she said. I think something's wrong. That sound carried through the house. A moment later, quick footsteps sounded outside. The door opened. Diana's mother stepped in, her face tightening as she looked around. Diana, she said. She took one look at her and stopped. What happened? Anne stood frozen. I gave her something to drink, Anne said. I thought it was raspberry cordial. Marilla came in quickly from the other room, hearing raised voices. Her eyes went straight to the table. She saw the pitcher and picked it up. She looked at it. This is currant wine, she said, looking at both of the girls. Anne felt it all at once. Her stomach dropped as she realized what had happened. She had picked the wrong drink. I didn't know, she said, her voice smaller now. I thought it was the right one. Diana's mother turned toward her, her face tight with anger. You gave her something without knowing what it was? Anne's face burned bright red. I thought I knew, she said quickly. I really did. That's not good enough, Mrs. Barry said. You don't just give someone something and guess. Anne didn't move. I didn't mean to, she said, but the words were small. Diana's mother stepped toward her daughter. She's coming home, she said, and she won't be coming back here. Anne felt that more than anything else. Those words, not coming back. Diana was let out, quieter now, not laughing anymore. And then the door closed with a sharp slap behind them. Suddenly the house felt different, too quiet. Anne looked at the table. I ruined it, she said softly. Marilla didn't answer right away. I just wanted it to be nice, Anne said. I know, Marilla said gently. But Anne shook her head. It was all my fault, she said. I didn't make sure, and she won't come back. And looked at Marilla for confirmation. Marilla was quiet for just a second. I'm sorry, she said. It may not be for a long time. Anne swallowed. That feeling stayed with her, like something had been taken away. She had just found a friend, and now she felt like she had lost her. Chapter 15. A Tough Day at School. Anne had been going to school for a little while now, long enough to know where to sit, long enough to recognize the voices around her, long enough that it should have started to feel familiar. But that morning, it didn't. She kept thinking about what had happened the day before, about how easy it had felt to talk and laugh with Diana, and how it made her feel like she had finally found a friend. And then everything changed quickly. The wrong drink, Diana's mother walking in and blaming Anne, then saying Diana was not coming back. She had an awful feeling like she had done something that couldn't be fixed. Anne walked to school like she always did, but she didn't notice anything along the way. She didn't imagine stories. She didn't create happy little moments in her mind. Instead, she kept replaying the moment back in the kitchen over and over. What should she have done? What should she have checked? What should she have known? None of it changed anything. By the time she reached the schoolyard, children were already gathered in small groups, talking, laughing, belonging. Anne slowed just a little. Usually she would watch for a while and then find a way to join in. But today she didn't want to. She didn't want to try. She just wanted to get through the day. The bell rang, everyone went inside. Anne followed and took her seat. The classroom filled with familiar sounds, chairs moving, voices chattering, books opening. Everything looked the same, but Anne didn't feel the same. She sat a little smaller than usual. If she could disappear, she would just do that. She kept her eyes on her desk. She focused on her work. She tried not to be noticed. Then a hand reached forward and pulled her braid. Carrots, a voice said. Anne froze. Instantly, she felt as if everyone might be looking at her hair, her appearance, and like that was the only thing that anyone could see. Her face grew hot. She felt hurt, and then she felt anger rising behind it. She turned. My hair is auburn, she said, her voice tight, and you need to keep your hands to yourself. The boy behind her, Gilbert Blythe, leaned back, a smug look on his face. Geez, I was only joking, he said. But he wasn't, not really. He was waiting for her reaction. Anne turned back around quickly. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk, her fingers pressed down so hard her knuckles turned pale. Her heart was pounding fast, so fast she could feel it in her chest. And in her ears there was a rushing sound, like when you run too fast and everything else fades out except that pounding sound in your ears. She stared straight ahead. She was determined not to turn around again. In class, the lesson continued, but Anne barely heard it. Her thoughts again kept moving back to the kitchen. That mistake, Diana's mother walking in, blaming her, harshly telling her it was all her fault, and not listening to an explanation, and saying Diana was not coming back. That awful feeling settled deep in her stomach, like she had done something that couldn't be fixed. After Gilbert tugged on her braid, it felt like everything was starting to pile up. All of it felt like it was too much. When the lesson ended, Anne stayed right where she was for a moment. She didn't move right away. She didn't want to stand up. She didn't want anyone to look at her. But eventually she had to. Outside, a few girls came over. They had seen what had happened. "That's Gilbert for you," one of them said. "He teases everyone." Another girl added, "He does it all the time, especially when someone's new." "He thinks it makes him look important," another said. They weren't saying it was right. They were trying to explain why Gilbert behaved the way he did, trying, in their own way, to include Anne. But no matter how much the girls tried to explain it, it didn't feel okay. "He shouldn't have done that," Anne said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't unsure either. She didn't explain it more, because if she did, she felt it might sound like it didn't matter. And it did, to her. The girls didn't argue. They just looked at her for a moment, and then slowly drifted back to what they were doing. Anne turned and began walking home quickly. Who did Gilbert think he was? Why did he pick her to make fun of? It felt like no one was looking out for her, and like she had to do that herself. And somewhere inside all of that hurt, without even realizing it, she made up her mind. She decided if she didn't speak to him, if she didn't pay him any attention, then he wouldn't do it again. By the time she reached Green Gables, that decision felt set. She pushed open the doors. Her books hit the kitchen table harder than she meant them to. The sound made Marilla turn quickly. Anne dropped into a chair, her whole body heavy. "I'm never going to speak to him again," she said. Marilla looked at her surprised. "Who?" she asked. "That boy at school," Anne said, turning toward her. Marilla set what she was doing aside and faced Anne fully. "And what did he do?" she asked. "He called me carrots, and then he pulled my hair." Marilla's expression softened right away. "I'm sorry that happened," she said. Anne looked at her. "It was mean," she said. Marilla nodded. "That wasn't kind." Anne leaned forward slightly. "I'm never going to speak to him again," she said. Marilla didn't answer right away. She was thinking about what Anne had told her and how Anne might feel about it. Finally, Marilla spoke. "When something hurts like that," Marilla said gently, "it is easy to decide things quickly, just so it doesn't happen again." Anne shook her head. "It felt mean," she said. "I believe you," Marilla said. "I'm not going to speak to him again," said Anne. Marilla didn't push. She could see that Anne wasn't ready to change her mind. Not yet. The next day felt quieter, not because anything had changed around Anne, but because something inside her had. She still moved through her usual routine. She still helped where she was needed. But the feeling from the day before was still there. Not as sharp as it had been, but not gone either. It stayed with her, and as hard as she tried, she couldn't stop feeling it. Chapter 16. Diana Comes Back. The next day, Anne didn't say much. She moved more slowly, more carefully, like she didn't quite trust herself the same way she had before. Even the smallest things made her pause, like she needed an extra second to be sure she wasn't about to do something wrong. Marilla noticed this, but she didn't say anything right away. She just watched Anne quietly for a while. She saw that Anne wasn't acting like herself. Finally, Marilla turned to Anne and spoke. I'm going to step out for a bit, she said. Anne looked up. Where to? She asked, a little unsure. To see Mrs. Barry, Marilla said firmly. Anne's stomach tightened instantly. Please don't, she said quickly. It was all my fault. Marilla stepped closer, her expression softening. She rested one hand gently on the back of the chair beside Anne, steady and calm. I know what happened, she said, and I also know you didn't mean for it to happen. Anne didn't answer. She just looked down. Marilla stayed there for a moment longer before speaking again. Sometimes things need to be explained properly, she said, and not left the way they were said in the moment. Anne swallowed her. Part of her wanted to believe that. Part of her didn't. What if it won't matter? She said quietly. What if you can't convince her? Marilla didn't rush to answer. Then we'll know we did what we could, she said, and that will be that. Anne nodded slightly, but she didn't feel any better. After Marilla left, the house felt still, empty, and quiet in a way that did not feel peaceful. Anne stood for a moment, not sure what to do with herself. The quiet felt big. It filled up the whole room. She walked to the table, then away again. She picked something up and then set it back down. Nothing felt right. Her thoughts kept circling. What if it doesn't change anything? What if she still can't come back? She tried to distract herself by focusing on small things. But her thoughts kept returning to what had happened. Every time they did, she told herself to stop thinking about it, but that only made them come back faster. Time passed slowly, then more slowly than that. It felt like it stretched out for hours, like it was waiting too. She tried to relax. She took a breath, but it didn't feel like enough. Every small sound felt louder than usual. Every shift in the house made her look up, even though she told herself not to. Then she heard the door. Her first thought was, she's back. She turned down the hallway and started to move toward the door. But when she looked, Diana was standing there, not Marilla. Anne blinked. She stopped mid-step. She took a small breath in, like she needed a second to understand what she was seeing. Diana? She said. Diana stepped inside. My mother said I could come, she said. Anne let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her shoulders dropped and that tight feeling in her chest loosened. Not all at once, but enough to feel the difference. You can? She said. Diana nodded. She understands now, she said. Anne took a small step forward. I didn't know, she said quickly. I thought it was the right drink. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible. I know, Diana said, and she meant it. Anne could see that there was no hesitation, no uncertainty, just understanding. And that made something inside Anne smile. The heavy feeling that had been sitting in her stomach, it wasn't gone completely, but it had loosened. Do you want to go outside? She asked. Diana nodded. Yes, they talked as they walked, not about everything all at once, but enough to feel like things were okay again. Anne noticed something. She wasn't thinking about what to say next. She wasn't worrying about doing something wrong. She wasn't replaying the moment from before. She just felt comfortable, like she could just be there with Diana, as a friend. That word did not feel uncertain now. It felt real. Later, when they came back inside, Anne paused for a moment. She looked at the table, the same place where everything had gone wrong before. Her eyes stayed there for a second longer. She expected that tight feeling to come back, but it didn't. Not at all. Because now she understood something she hadn't before. Mistakes don't always mean something's over. Things can be explained. People do come back. Oh, brave hearts, how did you feel about everything that has happened so far? Let's look back at what we just experienced in these chapters. While I'm talking, I want you to notice what's coming up inside you. Your thoughts, your feelings, even the quiet ones. In these chapters, we watch something really important happen in Anne's life. At the beginning, Anne is full of excitement. She is looking forward to spending time with Diana, imagining what it will feel like to finally have a friend. And when they're together, it does feel easy. They laugh, they talk, and everything feels like it's going just right. But then suddenly everything changes. Just one small mistake, one she didn't mean to make, turns into something big. Diana's mother comes in, she doesn't listen, and quickly places all the blame on Anne. Just like that, something Anne was so excited about falls apart. And that feeling doesn't go away. She carries it with her into the next day. And if you notice, when she goes to school, she isn't walking in as her usual curious, imaginative self. She's quieter. She's more aware. She's trying not to be noticed. And that's when Gilbert calls attention to her. What might have felt small on another day doesn't feel small at all. It feels like too much. So Anne reacts quickly. Then she sets a boundary and makes a decision to protect herself. But it doesn't end there because in the next chapter, something important happens. Marilla steps in. She doesn't ignore Anne's feelings. She doesn't rush past them. She takes the time to explain what happened. And because of that, Diana is allowed to come back. When we look closely at how everything unfolds, we can start to notice something, not just what happened to everyone, but how each person responded to it. Anne feels everything deeply and right away. She moves from excitement to disappointment to shame and then anger to protectiveness. When something feels good, she leans into it fully. And when something hurts, she responds to it just as strongly. She feels first and then reacts. Marilla is steady and observant. She sees Anne's excitement, then her disappointment, and then her hurt. She doesn't rush to fix things or dismiss them. Instead, she listens, reassures, and gently offers a wider view. She understands Anne is in her big feelings and tries to guide her without taking those feelings away. Diana is open and kind. She welcomes Anne easily and helps create that first sense of connection. When something goes wrong, she might not have fully understood it, but when she comes back to Green Gables, she reassures Anne in a simple, honest way. And even without saying much, she shows that the friendship is still there. And as we keep noticing these moments, how each person responds and what they do and how they feel, it can bring up a lot of big feelings for us, too. So let's talk about those big feelings, because when feelings have names, they don't seem quite so scary. The big feelings that showed up in today's story were disappointment, shame, and anger. Disappointment is the feeling we get when something we were really hoping for doesn't turn out the way we thought it would. Sometimes disappointment feels quiet. Sometimes it feels heavy. And sometimes something inside you just feels off. Anne felt disappointment when her visit with Diana didn't go the way she imagined. Have you ever felt disappointment before? I'm sure you have. Maybe something important to you didn't go as planned. That's disappointment. Shame. Shame is the feeling we get when we believe we've done something wrong. Sometimes shame makes our face feel red, and sometimes it makes us want to hide and not be seen. Anne felt shame after she realized what had happened with the drink. Everyone has felt shame at one time or another. Maybe something didn't go the way you meant to, and you hurt someone's feelings, and afterwards, you couldn't stop thinking about it. That feeling is shame. Anger is the feeling that rises up when something feels unfair or hurtful. Sometimes anger shows up fast. Sometimes it feels like energy moving throughout your whole body. Anne felt anger at school when Gilbert called attention to her and pulled her hair. On a different day, it might not have felt so big, but on that day, it did because she was already carrying something heavy. That strong feeling rising up, that's anger. Stories like this one help us recognize feelings that we've had before and maybe didn't have a name for. Sometimes feelings show up quickly, and sometimes feelings stay with us longer than we expect. So, what can we do? And we feel we can't manage them. That's when we slow down, we take a breath, and give ourselves a moment. Because when we give ourselves a moment to notice what's happening inside, and over a short time, those feelings don't feel quite as overwhelming. And you'll feel, underneath all of that, there is a quieter voice, a steady one that isn't rushing, one that isn't reacting. That voice helps you decide what to do next. When you learn to listen to that voice, remember, it takes time and practice. You begin to realize something important. You've been holding the answer all along. I've had such a good time reading with you today. And as we wind down, let's take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Remember, you can't feel things the wrong way. Your feelings are trying to tell you something, and they matter. You matter. You are growing and learning at a pace that is right for you, and you are right where you belong. Until next time, be gentle with your heart. Keep noticing your thoughts and feelings, and remember that being hopeful, curious, and a little unsure is a part of being brave. I can't wait to keep reading with you and see where Anne's journey takes us next. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to Girls Who Rise so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, brave hearts, see you soon.